hearts racing, obviously hoping that we wouldn't get caught.
We don't know where you come from. We don't know what intentions you have. You guys are running down through there. We don't know who you are.
There's something about the hobo that has to be recorded in American history.
And the whole time we were asking ourselves, well, what is the story here? What is the story of the hobo? What is a hobo?
It's not like people think. It's hard, you know, like a hard life.
Speeding up. Go, 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 go.
This is Britt, Iowa. It's a small town of about 2,000 people out in the central Iowa cornfields. Over the last 112 years, Britt has become known for one thing, an annual event called the National Hobo Convention. There's a hobo jungle, a hobo museum, and a hobo cemetery. In 1900, Britt was just a newly incorporated farming community in search of migrant workers. The town founders enticed the hobos to move their annual gathering from Chicago to Britt. A tradition was born that still brings self-described hobos to Britt every year for one August weekend.
I've been traveling trains since I was 8 and as a living since 63.
I started riding trains when I was 20 years old. I'm 62 years old now.
Wrong way. My nephew gave me that name in the early 70s.
I started in 1952 and I used a train to go from one place to another to find work. And that's how I survived.
Most historians agree the hobo emerged after the Civil War. Young men from both sides set off across the country in search of work. By the turn of the century, the hobo had become part of the fabric of America. But today, what was once a substantial culture and way of life seems close to extinction. We wanted to see what was left of the hobo community, and we hope we'd find it in Britt. In our minds, there was only one way to travel to the Hobo Convention: the freight train. We began our journey in Oakland, California, hoping to travel 1,900 miles on the rails in 5 days. These are the maps that show the different rail lines all over California, and with like special zoom-ins that kind of show you all the little small towns that you can stop in, different crew changes, and this is something totally like pre-iPhone. You know, now you can totally just GPS your location, but these maps were really helpful for a lot of people for a long time. Before a cohesive network of roads was laid across America, the train was the fastest way to get from place to place. Early hobos learned to ride by swapping information with other travelers they met along the way in hobo jungles. Chris is from Virginia and spends his time hopping freight trains around the country for pleasure. Our friend Ben lives in San Francisco and had a couple weeks off work and decided to join us.
I wasn't sure what to expect of the trip. I knew it was going to be an adventure, but I didn't know exactly what the details of the minutiae of the trip would hold.
The adventure.
We woke up that morning hoping to catch a train, but we woke up, got ready, there was no train there. And as more time passed, we realized that the information we had gotten was probably incorrect.
We decided to wait for another train, but a worker spotted us in the yard and called the bull. Bull is an old-time term for a railroad cop. It's always been a cat-and-mouse game between the hobo and the bull. Back in the day, bulls had no problem killing hobos. Today, it's a little bit different.
How you guys expect me to die? Now, well, I'd like to try to give you guys all citations. And if you come back here again, you're going to Oakland City Jail. You don't want to go to Oakland City Jail.
You guys are running down through there. We don't know who you are. We don't really have hobos anymore.
A transit, a hobo, vagrant is a guy who participates on the rail property. Trespass, hopping freight.
And the tramp's in the middle, right?
What they tramps. I like that. That was back in the day, man. That was back in the day. Tramps, hobos.
When have you seen somebody with a broomstick?
A tramp with a bag tied around their shoulder, right? All right, guys.
Thank you.
You know how to get out of here, right? Yeah. Don't come back. All right?
Don't come back.
There seem to be very few people hopping trains anymore. The hobo seems like a museum piece. It's like a joke, a word nobody uses anymore. We didn't want to go to the Oakland jail, so we headed to the Amtrak station with our tails between our legs. We got out to the next crew chain stop on the line, Roseville, California. As soon as we got to Roseville, there was a train getting ready to take off.
All right, 1, 2. Come on, let's go down this road. Shit, we're almost in view. Is that one? Is it? Side.
Bad decision. A conductor saw us and we got pulled off the train 5 miles outside of town. We just got pulled off this train here. Again? Yeah, it's the second time today. Morale was low. Chris decided to set off on his own to Denver, and we hopped a gambling bus to Reno, Nevada.
Now we're in Reno, Nevada, feeling a little better about our situation and hoping a train comes in the next couple hours.
In the yard, avoiding bulls and workers is one concern. Finding a rideable car is another. Some of the wells on these double-stacked cars have a cubby hole you can ride in, but we weren't seeing anything. The locomotive at the back of the train, called the rear unit, seemed like our best bet. But it's risky. Workers periodically check the cars. Lucky for us, the train aired up, and we finally got on our way.
We're indoors, Amtrak style. We got these big plushy seats. Continuing along. We're in the middle of nowhere. For the first 100 miles, there were no roads, no highways, no nothing. It was just desert as far as the eye could see. And it was beautiful. It was amazing to kind of get back, see what that was like. Vast expanses of nature. We can't stay in here, man. We gotta go. We just gotta get out of here. Let's just go. Seriously, let's go right now.
Now, everybody thinks that the real hobo life is great and it's part of wanderlust, but it's not. The hobo life is a very, very dangerous life.
Sometimes painful when everything is all fucked up. You know, you're looking around and you know, the bulls are out there.
It felt like something out of a special operations combat mission.
Even though we don't have a lot of water, we're traveling.
We spotted the grain train. We knew that this was our ticket out of Elko.
Go, 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 go! Is that one? Is it? Ah! Speeding up! Speeding up, man! Ben, grab it. I'm good. I'm good.
Riding on a flat car with a full moon and watching the it's a game that gives you a fucking hard on, I can tell you that.
Once you do it, it's with you the rest of your life. You want to keep on the move.
We see the world, you know, in a different light.
Always total, absolute freedom every day of my life.
I don't think there's any better way to see this great world of ours, especially our nation, than from a freight train.
We were crossing the Great Salt Lake. The air was cool and the smell of sulfur rose from the water. It was the most undisturbed stretch of natural beauty any of us had ever seen. The train forces you to slow down and take it all in. All the frustrations and anxieties of life back in civilization seem to disappear.
When you're on the rails, if you don't get caught, there's no one to tell you what to do, when to go to bed, when to get up, what to eat. You're on your own for 100%.
Although we were loving the ride, we were running out of water fast. After close to 24 hours on the train, we were hungry, tired, dirty, and dehydrated. Well, our train stopped here in Green River, Wyoming. It's just a little railroad town here in southern Wyoming. Just kind of roamed around and got the vibe of the town.
And then when you get into a community, of course, you have to fit into society, so you have to abide by the laws at that time. But if you're by yourself, you don't have to pay attention to any law.
So we walked over this bridge that we're sitting under now, probably about 110 degrees, dry heat.
Just took a dip in the Green River after 4 or 5 days not showering. I felt amazing.
I'm gonna go get in there right now.
Our days have been very full. We haven't gotten a lot of sleep. It's been a few hours here, a few hours there. Trying to hop on trains successfully, which we sometimes have, sometimes haven't. We're always on the move, trying to get to our end goal, which is Britt.
No eastbound trains were coming through. The sun went down and we enjoyed the solitude of the Wyoming landscape. Up to this point, we hadn't seen any other travelers on the trains. At the turn of the century, there were around 1 million hobos on the rails. After the Depression, that number doubled. Hobos had organized their own union, and there were over 60 hobo colleges all across the country. Boxcars were crowded with riders. But something happened midway through the century. Maybe it was American prosperity. Where there were once millions on the road, today there's probably a couple thousand. In my experience, you hardly ever see anyone on the rails. The next morning, we decided to try our luck in the Green River yard.
Hey, man.
All right, how about yourself? Good. You guys just taking pictures?
Yeah, real fence.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You guys not supposed to be out here, though. You know that?
We're hitchhiking.
Okay. Trespassing to be on the property here.
Sorry, man.
You guys are probably good chance the cops are already on their way.
Oh, really?
So just figured I'd give you the heads up.
All right, thank you.
Please steer clear of the rails too. This is a lot of trains coming through here.
Okay, man.
Yeah, be safe.
Thank you.
After getting warned by the cops to leave, we went back to our original spot under the bridge.
Get on that movie scene, man.
Today, you don't want to jump a train. It's so dangerous because the old steam locomotives, it was chug, 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 and pretty soon it was. But today, in 2 minutes, they're flying.
Do they see us? I don't think so.
Our train stopped in the middle of the yard, and we didn't know why.
Why the fuck did it stop?
An hour went by, and it felt like eternity. Each time you get on the train, it's a roll of the die, a unique and unpredictable experience. Perhaps that's one reason we do it, to gamble, to relinquish control completely, and give ourselves to fate and luck. It was nerve-wracking. It was one of the faster ones I've hopped on. You kind of had to run alongside and kind of throw yourself up. We all made it. Really grateful for that. The train out of Green River had 3 units and looked like it would blaze across Wyoming. But it puttered along the entire time at 35 miles an hour. It was time for a change of plans. We arrived in Laramie, Wyoming on Friday morning with still 800 miles to go to get to Britt. We were behind schedule and the convention had already started. We got off here in Laramie, Wyoming because the train was so damn slow. Rental cars were too expensive, the Greyhound would take 2 days, so we ended up getting this U-Haul. 12-hour drive ahead of us, we got to haul ass to Britt. In keeping with the spirit of our trip, we picked up all the hitchhikers we saw along the way.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Mine's Joe Young. I've been on the road for about 4 or 5 years. The only way I get around is on bicycle.
Picked up another guy. This is Alex. He's coming from Colorado.
How's it going?
It didn't take us long to fill up the back of the U-Haul. After 6 grueling days of traveling, we finally arrived in Britt. We were ready to hang out with hundreds of hobos and swap stories about our travels on the rails.
Hello, happy Hobo Day! Happy Hobo Days!
What we found instead was a family-friendly event with a bunch of tourists.
Just a number of townspeople, big farm tractors, fancy or unusual cars, and homemade floats, people not non-hobos.
All aboard!
The Hobo Convention has gone county fair mainstream. This wasn't the wild, drunken, turn-of-the-century event that brought 1,800 hobos here in the 1940s.
Well, we're serving mulligan stew, and it is what the traditional hobo used to serve. Meat, we have pork in ours, and then it has beef flavoring and pork flavoring, and then vegetables, barley, and rice in it, and then water.
Every year for the past 112 years, the hobos have elected a hobo king and queen.
This year, our new queen is Angel. The new king is Minnesota Jim.
It's an important moment for them, especially now that most of the hobos are senior citizens.
Come on, guys!
The Hobo Jungle in Britt is a well-maintained park on the edge of town. It used to be a pretty wild place.
This is not the same. They bring like a family affair and a history thing and people learning, because the hobo, you wouldn't be finding no children, camp, you know what I mean? People really was kind of sleeping out and across the tracks and in the bush. It was more like a jungle.
Today there's a lot of rules. No drinking, no drugs, no unleashed dogs. It's become the kind of place that people used to become hobos to get away from.
Show me, Lord, how to be.
Most of the hobos we met were retired from riding trains. Living an itinerant life for decades takes its toll.
A modern day hobo, probably in my estimation, is getting to the point where it's rubber tire hobos that come together and perpetuate history.
The convention has become a shadow of its former self. The city's turned it into a parody. There are still plenty of young people out there riding the rails for adventure, but those who call themselves hobos and travel around looking for work are a dying breed.
And it's still there, though I'm not riding freight trains, it's still there. I still want to ride.
Out on the rails, we slowed down and experienced an adventure that was once a way of life for a lot of people. The train tracks persist on, relics on the landscape, entry points into the hidden world. We felt a deep nostalgia for a time that's passed, and sadness for the American hobo, fast disappearing down the westbound track.
I have one final ride. That's my westbound journey.
For the moments of happiness, for the love,
for the moments of disappointments, for everything. Hobo is thankful to the railroad.